This meeting shall come to order. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during a regular meeting. Mrs. Petter.
Mr. Simons?
Present.
Mrs. Kessler?
Here.
Mrs. Wider?
Here.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Here.
Mrs. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Card, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion for approval, revision of agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Properly moved in second. Ms. Petter?
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes. Motion passes. We move to our second segment, which is recognition. We'll start with Mr. Card.
Well, thank you, sir. We are very lucky to have some fabulous student athletes with us tonight that represented us very, very well in Dayton this year at the state track meet. So Coach Harris will come up and call them up, and then Coach Smith will do the gentleman.
Good evening. Okay, so the board wishes to recognize the state championship Lady Vikes 4x100 relay team of Mackenzie Givens, Isabella Williams, Zaya Walton, and Erin A. Coleman.
Oh, my God.
Can we get in the picture?
Oh, eventually, yeah. You have to. Cling, 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 cling.
Okay, stay there. Coaches, you come into the picture.
Don't come back here
All right, one more moment, most important. There, pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Should I just start talking? Just start talking? So, ladies, really? So these four young ladies not only ran a time of 46.64 to win the 4x1, they also broke the school record, and they also were the same four ladies that ran the 4x200 and also broke the school record with a time of 138.76. Miss McKenzie came in 7th in the 200. And then we have one more to add to the bunch. If Miss Aaliyah Betts would come up. Aaliyah was our discus thrower. She came in 2nd, and she had a throw of 143 feet and 4 inches. Which is also a school record that she had previously, that she broke her own record. And these young ladies will be on Thursday leaving for North Carolina A&T in pursuit of All-American status at Nationals. Absolutely.
Now we're going to have Coach Smith with the boys team.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The board also wishes to recognize the boys 4x4 100-meter relay team of Jared Farley, Trenton Cottrell, Brendan Braddix, and Ben Howe. And I believe Ben is at work, so he won't be able to be with us this evening. They finished 6th in the state in the 4x4 100-meter relay. And while he is not here, the board also wishes to recognize Princeton senior William C.J. Coleman. He won the GMC and the shot put as well.
Made that turn too quick.
Excuse me.
And this may have been mentioned, I'm not sure if I heard or not, but the girls' team finished 3rd. The whole team finished 3rd in the state, so that's unbelievable. So
That's amazing.
we're very proud of you. Congratulations. Thank you. Now, I will say you're very welcome to stay. If you want to go, go. I know it's time to go, so you're good.
I have a quick question.
Oh, wait, we got a question.
Quick question. Do you still have the 800-yard relay? Or is it
Yep.
still 800? Okay. And the fastest person is like number 3, or all of them are fast?
They're all fast.
All fast. Okay, fine. I just ran a
Thank y'all
third
for being
leg
here.
to Princeton.
Good to see you, girl.
I was a senior the first year that Princeton went to state.
Which one do you think I read?
And,
Third in the state, something.
gosh, the track team went to state.
Yes, I did.
Girls didn't even have it made like that.
I did final.
Oh, Carolina. Excuse me.
Okay, at this time, we would have recognition of visitors. Ms. Petter,
No forms?
say, so, Board Member Susan Wider has a public comment.
Susan Milligan was one of the outstanding musical teachers in the district. In fact, one year, I even took lessons from her, so I speak firsthand. But Susan passed this week. She had a lung disease, and she passed. Thursday, we would like to celebrate as Susan Milligan Day. She's living in Texas now, so some of us will be going down there, but just think of her and her family on Thursday, Susan Milligan Day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Susan.
My pleasure.
Was she a resident of Springdale, or did
Yes,
she teach?
she's a resident of Springdale, and that's why Springdale has declared that Thursday is Susan Milligan Day in Springdale.
Okay. Thank you. Section 4, consent agenda. I have a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the following recommendations. Remove the administrative section and the non-bargaining section from the personnel report, which is item number, or letter S. And remove item L, which consists of the administrative and non-bargaining handbooks.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Wider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving to number 5, district business. Approval of the May financial report. Need a motion?
I move to approve the May 2024 financial report as presented.
Second?
Mrs. Petter, comments?
All your reports are attached in board docs. Not a lot of action in the monthly financial report, seeing as we just completed the forecast update. So all these numbers then are kind of reset for cash flow expectations. So we are sitting at a difference of $69,000, and we strive to keep that number solid as we move through the rest. But again, we spent a lot of time talking about the forecast, so I think everyone feels pretty good about the numbers for this year. Plugging through the ESSER funding, biting that off at chunks. Now we are at 93.7% spent and encumbered. We will work hard to get those monies encumbered before the end of June and expended by the end of September. You have your 018 donations fund report. That's updated. Again, that little fund is operating well. It is standing at about 118,000 unencumbered balance. So the good superintendent manages that money well. And then you had your credit card report attached and the reconciliation with your investment report. And having just gone through our ratings presentation, we did learn that it's very important that boards of education see all the detail in the investments, which I've always included, but apparently some do not. Some just give you the top sheet, but it is very important that boards of education receive all of the nitty-gritty financial details of all our investments. So they are there for you every month.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? If not, Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wider?
Yes.
Okay, approval of the quote for Magma, not math subscription, school year 2024, 2025. Have a motion?
I move to approve the quote for Magma Math Subscription School Year 2024, 2025.
Second.
I guess this goes to Mr. Card.
Yes, this is a program that we use in our Princeton Innovation Center, designed to meet the kids of varying abilities, something we've been using. And it can do enrichment, or it can do remediation. So it's beneficial to our kids with a lot of different levels in there, so that's what that's for.
Could it be used outside the Innovation Center?
Right now, we only plan using it there, but I'd have to see if we're not planning on using it anywhere else, put it that way. But can it be? Yes. Yeah, this one's just.
No, I'm talking about the content of the program. Since you said it could be used for remediation and enrichment.
This contract just for the.
No, I understand. I'm
Oh,
talking about the content, not the contract, the content of the
Oh,
software.
sure, yes.
It could be used in other settings, but right now, the Innovation Center teachers are really excited about this program, and our other teachers feel like that the programs we currently have at the middle school and high school are meeting their needs. This is not one that they selected to move forward with, so.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Ms. Petter?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Motion passes. Approval of a job description to be the Assistant Director of Food Services. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the job description of Assistant Director of Food Services as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second. We're gonna have Mr. Card, and you can throw it to whoever you want.
I'll talk real quick, and then if they want to jump in. This will be someone that will help assist the Director of Food Services. We're looking for a dietitian, so we're trying to work on what we're doing with our meals and make sure they're good for our kids as well. And possibly, you know, we always look for succession plans, and so maybe someone that could advance when retirement happens. So that's what we're looking at.
Are they going to make the meals taste better?
That was, I did ask that question. I said something we need to do, because I hear that sometimes, is to make sure we try to work on that. So we're gonna work on that. That's a question I asked as well.
So not only taste better, but healthy.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the thing, you know, we have some guidelines
Those
we have
aren't
to
the same.
follow.
Not the
Yeah.
same.
Those are not the same.
No, they're not the same.
Sometimes you can't get both.
We have
You gotta
guidelines
go
we have
one
to
or the other.
follow, but we want to follow our guidelines, but also have things that our kids would like to eat. So that's what
Right.
we're gonna work on.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions? Ms.
Mr.
Petter?
Simons?
Yes for tasty.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Motion passes. D, approval of job description for Executive Assistant, Food Services.
I move to approve the job description of Executive Assistant for Food Services as presented.
Is
Sec-
this a job being added?
No, this is just, we're taking Ms. Dupiel, who's in that role now.
Okay.
Second.
But that, so then the one above?
She will
is
go out of
be-
the union and go to non-bar.
okay.
All of our directors, secretaries are non-bar. For whatever reason, she wasn't, so we want to be consistent, so we've made that change.
Okay, but the fact that there's an assistant and then that one,
This is-
are we adding one?
The one before was, this one is just
Okay.
changing the
That's-
description.
Thank you. I just needed it clarified.
Yes, ma'am.
Did someone say?
No.
Jody
I think
did.
you were about that.
Yeah, second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any questions,
It
concerns?
appears, maybe you're trying to move toward job shadowing, where someone can sit with the person doing the job before they leave. Is that,
This one isn't. This one's just
but the other,
changed. The other one would be something of that, where she'll be an assistant. And hopefully, as we, you know, something that the board had talked to me about was try to grow within and have some plans, and so we're trying to work on that a little bit.
okay, thank you.
And that'll be paid for via what means? The one previously, so that,
I think
Well,
that's being
clear on
paid by food service.
Both
Food
of
service
these. Both of
Food
these are
service has
paid.
that, yeah, both. Food
Federal
service has
funds.
They
that.
have the budget.
They have a pretty hefty budget. They're gonna pay
Federal
that in a little
funds.
bit.
Federal
Yeah,
funds.
yeah.
Okay, Ms. Perry?
Mrs. Kessler,
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Simons.
Yes. Motion passes. E, approval of resolution of necessity to levy an additional tax for current operating expenses to be voted on in November 2024.
I move to approve the resolution of necessity to levy an additional tax for current operating expenses to be voted on in November 2024 as presented.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any comments?
As the board is well aware of, and I'll make the public aware of, this is a replacement for the initial resolution of necessity that was passed in May. This resolution rescinds that previous action and then puts this one in place. And the issue was that it was not listed as a continuing levy, which this district has passed historically. So this now lists that and replaces the initial action.
Okay, board, any questions? If not, is it better?
Mrs. Wyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler.
Yes.
Motion passes. Letter F is pretty self-explanatory. If there are any comments? Okay. Going to item number 6. Discussion. First reading, Princeton High School textbook adoptions. Mr. Card?
There've been some updates to the AP biology standards. So we had to find a textbook that would fit the updates to the standards, and this is what this is doing. So we're to replace that so our kids are prepared for when they take the tests, as they learn throughout the year.
Do we get an option of having it as a tactile, regular textbook and also online? How does that work?
Certain publishers have that. I'm not sure about this one if they did. I know they did some studies on what to get, and this is what they chose.
Thank you.
Does the board have any other questions? Okay. B, academic update. Mr. Card?
Yep, that'll be Dr. Falls now will be coming up to talk about our behavioral health data for the 23-24 school year.
Good evening. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of information with you about the services we have in the district to support the behavioral health needs of our students. Certainly, following COVID, we made it a point to pile on some additional services to help support our students, especially since there was a high need for mental health supports. So in tonight's presentation, I'm going to outline the different providers that we partner with within the district, how those providers are funded, and then an overview of their data that they've collected on students this year with pre-assessment data given at the beginning of the year versus post-assessment data to measure that progress for our students. I'll also review the total number of students that we've had served this year with our school-based providers. So very fortunate to have multiple partnerships in the district. There's a list here of our primary partners and how they are funded. Best Point, formerly known as Children's Home of Cincinnati. Best Point has a day treatment program at Lincoln Heights Elementary, serving students throughout the district that may need a half-day day treatment model, and that is funded through grants, through the Student Wellness and Success Grant that we receive, as well as Ohio Medicaid for many of the students being served. Camelot Community Care, we used to have a day treatment program through Camelot We still utilize Camelot for school-based counseling or school-based therapy at Evendale, Glendale, and Woodlawn, and that is funded by grants. Catholic Charities of Southwestern Ohio, serving the middle school, the high school, and the Innovation Center through Medicaid grants, and then also Title III funds. Catholic Charities specializes in bilingual therapy, serving Spanish-speaking students and families. Healthcare Connection, as you know, Viking School-Based Health Center also has a behavioral health practitioner in place in addition to physical health practitioner. So funding is through family medical coverage or even through the school-based health center funds. Lighthouse Youth Services work with students at Lincoln Heights and Stewart, funded through Medicaid. Mind Peace Cincinnati is an organization that kind of brings it all together. So we do not pay anything out to Mind Peace, but they have an active role in helping us to strengthen our relationships and boost numbers with our providers, but also helping to connect families if they're having a hard time finding a provider or practitioner inside or outside of school. Our National Youth Advocacy Program is very similar to Catholic Charities, serving multiple buildings in the district, funded through Medicaid grants and also Title III. That's another organization providing bilingual counseling to support our English learners. And Talbert House would probably be our most, I guess, our most robust provider in the district, serving multiple buildings funded through Medicaid and grants. We've had 359 students receiving behavioral health supports during the 23-24 academic school year. That's grades K through 12, compared to the 22-23 school year where we had about 295 students being served. So that need has certainly increased. These numbers have increased as well a bit because some of our providers have increased their capacity, have gifted us with additional people to be able to help students. I'm not going to go highly into detail on these, but I wanted to point out, you'll see multiple slides here that will give a variety of different measures. Each provider essentially uses a different measure to assess the effectiveness of serving their students and the effectiveness of their progress or their growth. So Camelot, working at 3 elementary schools, having that individual split between 3 elementary schools, the caseload at each building is in the single digits. But they use the Ohio scales, which is a level of functioning and current troubles. So pre-assessments given at the beginning of the year, one in the middle of the year, and then post-assessment at the end of the year. And we were happy to report that over 60% of our students in those buildings did have scores that improved. We did have no change in scores for a small percentage, and then a small percentage of students whose scores decreased. So we are looking more globally, any student that maybe decreased or wasn't making progress, trying to connect them to summer services, and certainly making sure the students are on that caseload for next school year. Catholic Charities uses 2 different tools, uses the PHQ-9, which is a depression scale, and then the GAD-7, which is an anxiety scale. So at their various buildings, we did see a decrease in the PHQ-9 at 2 of our buildings, which is a good thing because a lower score means less of a propensity for depression. And then a significant decrease for the anxiety scale as well. They're similar measures, but one's looking at depression and one at anxiety. Our Lighthouse Youth Services at Lincoln Heights and Stewart, they use the Colocus, which quantifies the clinical severity and the service needs of children and adolescents, and we were very pleased to see a higher number of students being served at Lincoln Heights because they had a full-time person, whereas Stewart had a part-time person there. 52% of our students at Lincoln Heights had improvements on their Colocus and 2% improvement at Stewart. And then Talbert House, as I mentioned, there are multiple buildings in the district, lots of capacity to serve students. They use 2 measures as well, the Ohio scales, which is the level of functioning and current troubles. We were happy to see that 76% of our students being served through Talbert House showed improvements, We did have a decrease of 24%, so certainly going to be mindful of the students in that category and continued support. But on average, the score increased by 6.96 points, which is relatively significant. And then the pediatric symptoms checklist was administered, which is just an overall cognitive, behavioral, and emotional checklist. And we saw 62% improvement there, 5% no change, 33% decrease with a 2.11 point improvement on average. That was for the secondary level. Similar data for the elementary level where Talbert House serves. The Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment was includes 8 social emotional competencies and strengths and areas of need. Saw a significant improvement of 76% on that measure with 22% decrease. And then the Ohio scales was mentioned earlier with one of our providers, the level of functioning and current troubles. We saw 66% of our students improving on that measure and 32% decreasing. NIAP, our National Youth Advocacy Program, working with providing bilingual counseling for some of our English learners. They use the DLA 20, which is an outcome only given at the point in time of discharge. There's no pre-assessment. It is a post-assessment given once a student is discharged from services. So of our discharged students, which were 19 in total across the multiple buildings where NIAP serves, 74% of those students improved. The average score that was given at, I do apologize, I said there was no pre-assessment given, there's one given at intake. I was incorrect on that, but the average score at intake was abnormal. Anything 5 and above is considered normal, anything 5 to 12, and then the average score at discharge was slightly higher than that by about a whole point, normal range there. We're also very fortunate to have our partnership with the School-Based Health Center. Consistently throughout the year, 64 students were seen and served at the Viking School-Based Health Center with our behavioral health specialist. That's compared to 52 that we had in the prior school year. One thing that's a little different from the School-Based Health Center compared to some of our other providers, School-Based Health Center has been useful to serve students that are on wait lists for some of our providers. If providers at capacity, students can be seen at the School-Based Health Center. The caveat to that is there is a limited number of visits that the students can take. It's up to 10, and then our practitioner there would then refer out to either an outside provider or to see if there was an opening again at that time. So next steps going into the 24-25 school year, we certainly want to continue to maintain those partnerships with our providers and ensure that we have at least one school-based mental health provider per school. We will have that for next year where there's at least one agency working within each building. And then increasing our staff capacity with support for our students at the Tier 1 level, so supporting all students, and then supporting students at the Tier 2 level through our social emotional curriculum that we have in the district, such as the Leader in Me at the elementary level, second step with our counselors at the elementary level, and then utilizing Terrace Metrics, which is an assessment we give. There are lessons and resources to align with that assessment data to help support students and coach them, which is a good alternative to therapy as well. I appreciate your time as we share this information this evening, and I will open it up for any questions.
You know, I think I was missing a couple pages. Maybe I'll get a copy of your presentation.
Sure.
From Mr.
You should have the front and back.
Oh, I did. I looked front and back. Some of them were missing.
Still missing.
I mean, it was good
I will-
information, though.
yeah, I will
I'm not criticizing
reshare,
the handout
yes.
or anything. I liked it.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, how many students on average use your school-based healthcare center?
Overall, for any type of need, whether it's health, mental
Yeah,
health, or dental.
I know you're just talking about mental right now, but in general,
I know I have that number back at my computer because when we meet monthly with the School-Based Health Center, they give me a total number of visits. I want to say it's over 1,000, but I will check that number prior to the end of
that's
the
a
meeting
year, like yearly or something?
for the year, for the school year.
And has there ever been a request or conscientious effort to include dental care?
We do have dental care at the school-based health center. Screenings can be provided and examinations can be provided. They are working to expand what they can offer. Full dental services are offered at the Lincoln Heights Health Center. School-based health center currently working on replicating that in-house.
Would it be a goal to put some type of health-related, agency in every building? Or is that what you were sort of leaning toward, or just have someone with that health type of background in each building?
So we have our internal staff of our school nurses, health specialists, and health aides at each building. But what we have found with the school-based health center is certainly very convenient for the high school and middle school
Yes.
because they're located in the same spot. We did pilot telehealth this year at Sharonville Elementary through the school-based health center. And what is involved in that is there's a cart with some tools to do basic diagnostic and vital stats, but then an iPad for the nurse practitioner at the school-based health center to virtually visit with a sick student. Actually served quite a few students this year, and it really reduced the number of days that they missed school because they could be seen that day by someone at the Viking School-Based Health Center. We look to expand that to our elementaries and our innovation center.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
Thank you, and Dr. Jameson provided me with some updated numbers. Thank you, Dr. Jameson. 2,985 total visits to the
That's
school-based health
good.
center. 94 of those were telehealth.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's available to staff also?
Yes, it's available to staff, to family members, and to students.
Board member, no, just kidding.
Aren't you, you're a family, part of the Princeton family?
And it's open during the school year. They open a few days prior to the start of the school year. They help with school physicals, immunization compliance, and then they usually stay open a few days past the end of the school year.
And that's not the same person a parent would go to if they wanted their child tested to see where they were on the spectrum, or would it be the same?
Correct. That wouldn't be a service that's provided at the school-based health center. They could provide some information to help a medical professional or a school-based team make that determination, but there wouldn't be a full diagnosis given from the school-based health center.
So would the school psychologist do that?
School psychologists would take part in evaluation of a student if there's a suspected disability. They wouldn't diagnose a student with autism, but would do that educational evaluation piece.
Yeah. Because I figure the earlier they know, the better. So if the school district, I don't know how young a child would have to be, a baby or what, that they would at least look at the situation.
Well, we evaluate any students ages 3 and up to see if they're eligible for special ed preschool services if there's a suspected disability. So we do evaluate and serve.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for your time, and I will
Thank you.
share the presentation again.
Very good. Okay, treasurer's report.
A couple items. As I mentioned briefly, Elgin and I participated in the S&P ratings conversation last week. It went very well. We did maintain our rating. And now we move on to pricing. And it looks like Thursday's the day. If the market holds, we will go and have our debt priced. And then the next step is to receive the funds, which would be July 3rd. So the process is moving right along. Elgin did a fantastic job in his first ratings
Yeah,
presentation.
All I gotta do is brag on Princeton. It's easy.
Exactly.
So, when they told me that, it's easy.
And then I told him too, if you pause, what happens?
They'll jump
Kent
in.
fills it right in. Kent
Oh,
Cashel
yeah.
knows the district
Yes.
so well.
Oh, yeah.
He is a true asset to have at those
Yep.
meetings. He knows the S&P people, and then he knows our district so
That's
well.
good.
It's good.
Good job. Both of you.
And the other item is, I just want to give you a quick heads up, next meeting, we should have the property and liability insurance rates, and they will be going up. And our rate is looking like it's possibly 35% increase. And it's as a result of all of the natural disasters that we've been having across our country that have just impacted the insurance industry so greatly. So all school districts are seeing these large increases. We did not see it last year. A lot of school districts did see it last year. And we saw just a slight increase, but this year we're gonna see that larger increase. So I'll have those numbers for you as soon as I have them. He is still arm wrestling with some of the providers, and it's gonna be interesting. So I don't think they'll ever go down. I mean, we're just, weather impact is really hurting insurance companies. So not a problem on the liability side. It's all the it's protecting our assets. So I'll have that for you next meeting. We have to have that handled and approved and ready to go July 1 because it's a July 1 contract. But it's always the last meeting in June.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Superintendent's report?
Yes, sir. First thing I want to do is, I don't think we've talked about our graduation ceremony, so I wanted to bring that up. It went very well. Very pleased with our students and our families and our administration and teachers who took part in that. It's always a great day for our young people. So my first one as superintendent, and I enjoyed it immensely, and I look forward to watching many more kids be successful as they move across that stage and what they, you know, we always keep an eye on them, what they're doing in the future as well. So that was great. Something we have going on right now, our Summer Leadership Academy, with our principals, cabinet, some of our teacher leaders, coaches. We had one last Thursday on the 6th. Went very well. We had a little fun with the Olympic theme, as you can see some things around here probably. We'll have another one here tomorrow and Wednesday with more information. So before some of our folks are done for the summer. Strategic plan update. We've taken that. Tomorrow I have a meeting with the two gentlemen from Hamilton County Educational Service Center going over the things they've collected from the Youth Truth Survey. They saw that, as well as many interviews with several different folks and stakeholders. So we'll talk about that tomorrow and see where we're at. And they've given me a little bit of insight of what they've heard, and I think it's been pretty consistent across the board. So I look forward to getting a little deeper with that tomorrow as the team's doing their leadership stuff. I'll have to run in there real quick and handle that. Also, Wednesday is the Evendale Firehouse Chili Lunch event. So if you're like chili and you want to support the Evendale Fire folks in that community, please come out. It's 11 to 1. Myself and many of my team will be there to help pack up orders and set up and tear down and do those things. And then the team will run back and finish our leadership that afternoon. So we've got a really busy day on Wednesday, but I wanted to give them that shout out. Friday is our golf outing at Glenview. It starts at 11, so we're looking forward to that. And one other thing you may have seen, we put an email and a letter out last week was we won't be posting on Twitter moving forward. They've made it to they made a policy where they're going to allow adult content on their platform, and there's just some things there. I think it would be irresponsible for us to use that when our kids will scroll and seeing something about what's going on at Princeton and then something of adult content. So we will keep our Twitter handles because, and I want everybody to keep those as we talked about, because if you let it go, somebody else can take it and they can post as you, which has happened to somebody I know in another district. So we don't want that to happen. So we will keep them. I'll still read stuff. I get a lot of great information off there, read a lot of good things off there, but we won't be posting there. So we do have we put out our Facebook, our Instagram, we have YouTube, we have our website, we have a lot of things that we've been putting out. Ms. Roddy had put that out last week as well, helped me with that, to let people know where to get our information. You know, I probably use Twitter more than anybody, so that's you know, it's kind of a sad day for me, but we got to do what's right for kids, and I don't feel like, as soon as it was sent to me, we talked the next morning, and we said we're done with this, so it's just what's right for kids. So that's all the things I have right now.
All right. Number 8, executive session. We are going to go into executive session to discuss under sections 121.22G1 to consider the employment, promotion, and compensation of a public official of the Ohio Revised Code. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Properly moved and second. Ms. Petter?
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
No further action will come after the executive session. Just as an FYI, we are adjourned to executive session.